Welcome to your weekly training video. Today's video is about a daily devotion to the divine and why it's important. Why is it important? Guess what? If you're watching this, you're human. You're not an angel on this earth. We're human. And it's wonderful to manifest. That's in those moments where you can really connect and surrender and watch what happens in your life. That's when the magic unfolds, when you're really connected. But also too, if we're making something outside of us the predominant relationship in our life, that's the thing where we can get ourselves stuck. We all know the fact that if we try and make our partner our higher power, our children, our friends, our co-workers, and that area of control is that real codependency sets in. And we could so go down the roads of, we can even do it by being really nice and really sweet and then really passive aggressive, and we don't even know we're actually doing it. And so what I want to talk about today is also too the pink fluffy cloud, yes, with the manifestations and asking for what we want, and that is possible, to get, the simple things that unfold for us and our higher purpose. But also too, I want to talk a little bit about our humanness. And why do you think that people would make something other than a higher power or their daily devotion to their lives important to them? Why are they trying to make that connection, and why do they forget about the divine? Because of trauma. And when we're growing up, especially as teenagers, it ain't cool sometimes to say that you might be feeling fearful, you might be feeling lonely, whatever you're going into, it ain't cool. So you push it right down. In my generation too, you're taught that, if you're seen and not heard and you're a good little girl, oh my gosh, you get all the praise in the world, and girls don't get angry, and you're really sweet and lovely to everybody, and life is just a lovely pink fluffy cloud and everything's beautiful. What a lot of bullshit. What a lot of bullshit. And a lot of spiritual circles that you go on, it's that lovely airy fairy and you have that connection and life is wonderful. But are you really getting to the nitty gritty of our shadow work? So when you go into your shadow work, this is where the real growth occurs, and your relationship to the divine can come in those moments and make it a lot easier, going into that work. And it is painful. But when you call on that something higher than you to help you through it, that's where real growth occurs. Okay, so when you are having those moments of pure connection, they're real, and you're not faking it, because you've done the work, you've done the healing. You're asking for the super conscience in you, telling you to really heal and look at it. Every single person walking around on this planet has a degree of trauma. And that's exactly why you're making your partner your higher power, or you're making your children your higher power, or your best friends. That's why you're doing it, to heal something inside of you. But I sure as hell like to think that we can control other humans, because we can't. You can't control what another person does, as much as you can't control those waves of the ocean. You only need to look at the ocean to know you ain't, you're human. You ain't no God. We're not the divine. We can't do that. That's our humanness coming in. So when you basically surrendering and you're asking in moments, because our relationships sometimes in our life will be sometimes the most, we have lots of ecstasy and joy from them, but also can be a real source of pain. When you can say out loud, what is the most benevolent outcome for this situation? Please, my angels and guides, can I see this from a different perspective? Can I walk a mile in someone else's shoes? Help me to see from a different perspective. Angels and guides, please help this relationship with this person that I'm in. Whether it's a co-worker, your friends, your partner, your children, when you can call on the divine for pain in your life as well, watch how easier it becomes, and how you can do that shadow work. It's a whole other subject again. But doing that shadow work with the help of the divine is going to make all the difference in your life. Because we have a soul contract before we come here. We all do. We forget it. If we were to remember it, we wouldn't be human, and we wouldn't learn our lessons of compassion to help another person. Do you think that maybe it's happened for us, not to us, for our life's work, so we can will help someone else that's going through the pain? That we can bring up our children to not have to go through what they went through. These wee star seeds that have been born now, they're making this 5D world a better place, and we freaking will need it. So that's us doing our work and doing there's an ego death that people are experiencing at the moment. And if you don't do the shadow work, people are going to sit in a lot more pain, and you'll see it, that whole victimhood, and that's where the substance abuse comes in, the overeating, people getting into massive amounts of debt. That's where if you're not doing the work or asking for help or getting the manifestations, you can stay stuck. And so, therefore, I believe that the divine in our life is the most important relationship. It's the most important connection you will have. So if you're trying to make someone else that more important, that's when we're going to get stuck. So if we get up in the morning and we make that the most predominant relationship in our lives, everything can flow on. We can get the healing. We can light up and show others the way. We can, that whole not worrying about what another thinks. What anyone else thinks of us is none of our business anyway. And the words of Byron Katie, it's my job to like me, it's not yours, but I can still respect you as a member of the human race. When you're connected in, you don't care so much what anybody else thinks. You're keeping your side of the street clean because you're on your own journey. And a little bit thing on too is that these children that have been born now, star seeds and things, there's less judgment and criticism of others. Because when you just soul and align your own purpose, you're looking at your own character. When someone is judging or criticizing another, that's that old 3D reality, where you aren't connected and you haven't done obviously your devotion work to have that connection, because you're wanting to make yourself feel better by having that inside of you to judge another human being. So that's part of separation that's in our world at the moment, that we're trying to get, why the ego deaths are happening, so we can bring it back into unity and do all our own work. There's nothing more authentic than someone that stands in their truth, that's doing the work and admits their humanness, and that's where you can really manifest from, because you're getting yourself out of the way, you're asking for help, and that's where the good stuff happens, when you do feel connected. And we're meant to be here to do our soul work for our purpose, but also our humanness. It is to enjoy, the emotions that come up. There's no good. We just put labels of good and bad on emotions, but the ones that hurt us are teaching us. But then there's emotions that are beautiful, with my beautiful baby girl, the love you feel when you look at a baby or your children, or that song by Westlife, and it's like you find it in the deepest friendships, the songs that give you goosebumps and the friendships that give you goosebumps. You find it in your that whole with your life's work and your work and helping others. That's where the pink fluffiness comes from, and it's real. Those emotions are real. Things that move us. A beautiful sunset. So that's why we're here, to enjoy beautiful food. We're given taste buds for a reason, So that's part of being human. And so we're meant to be here for those two reasons. And calling on a daily devotion will just make your humanness happen. You'll do your healing. You'll experience the joy we've just talked about, but also too the pain when it comes up. You'll have help, as we've talked about, from seeing things from a different perspective. What would it take for me to walk a mile in someone else's shoes? What would it take? What is the most believable outcome? What is the most believable outcome for a work situation where something's happening with your colleagues or a boss, or there's a conflict at work? What is the most believable outcome? What sort of takes away the pain and you surrender yourself out of it because you're calling on something higher than you to help you out? So that's why it's important. That is the most important relationship you will ever ever have. So if you're trying to replace it with something else, that's when the pain will come in. So when you do this work, it reminds you to come back to it. However you look at it, your life lessons can come through the journaling we talked about, the meditation, prayer. Even the word prayer, we can just ask for a blessing. You know, the whole church created more trauma, didn't it? The very thing they were trying to connect with is making us feel like sinners. But I tell you what, no matter who we are, what trauma we've had, we're loved no matter what. Just by being here, our birthright is that we are loved in all our humanness. So it's that whole, you don't have to make your prayers or anything so rigid, but you know, get on your hands and knees if you want to, the traditional way, but you don't have to. You can be driving in your car. And remember that they are angels and guides, and even our ancestors that are around for us want to help us, you know. And we all know in divine circumstances, people who have had accidents and they've had some help. But normally free will is something that they don't come in to help unless we ask. So ask, they're around, but also don't forget to thank, having that gratitude. I remember an example of my nephew's birthday party, and there were so many kids, and I was trying to help them all by getting them some beautiful food, and there was just this one wee boy, and they were only little, they were only 3, and this wee boy said to me, "Thank you so much, Tanya, I so appreciate it." And he just blew me away. And I tell you what, that wee boy from me, he got the what he wanted from the table first before the others, because he thanked me. And I thought, that's how the universe works. You know, you don't want to give to, you know, an ungrateful kid sometimes doesn't get it first. The wee kid that was thankful. The universe works in the same way. When we're thankful, we're given more of it. No one wants to, you know, you're not going to get more from being a brat. Even though we are loved, as I was saying before. But that is when you're grateful, more shows up in your life. And that's the whole relationship with money as well. But that's another subject that we're going to go into down the track. And that's where you manifest from too. But that connection coming in, thinking, having gratitude, the realness of being human, shadow work, and don't be involved in some of those spiritual circles that sort of go, you have to walk around, everything's lovely and nice all the time and you're connected with this perfect wee pink cloud, because that's, you know, you're not dealing with stuff and you're not in your soul purpose. You know, things happen for us, not to us. Remember that. So maybe this is happening for us to make me a better, compassionate human, that I can help someone else on their soul journey. And when you're connected, you'll realize that of your humanness. Your humanness, again, is to be here, to experience the beautiful, loving emotions, but to do your shadow work of the ego death, of this new 5D world we're stepping into, that's been for so long separated. We judge and criticize each other. Why? Because it makes us feel better. If someone's different from us or have different views or their actions, we can judge. But we're not doing your own work. So that's where that separation comes in. But this ego death that's happening around the world right now, people that are stuck in their pain, if they don't have that connection to the divine, that's where substance abuse comes in. That's where, you know, that whole people that can get into debt, it's the shopping, it's the food addiction, it's when your health's at risk, which is a spiraling effect anyway, because you ain't going to feel good about yourself, so it spirals down a little bit more. But if you were to take the most predominant relationship in your life with your higher power and surrender our control of people, places and things, and realize that we can never control someone else, and surrendered for the most benevolent outcome for something that you never thought possible, with a little bit of patience and asking the divine for patience, seeing what manifests and what unfolds, is something that you could never do with just your own will. As much as we think we are so strong-willed, I'd like to see you control the ocean and the waves coming in. Same thing, we can't control another human being. And so therefore the daily devotion of the divine is so important, and keep coming back to it for the reason of easing our own pain through our own shadow work, but also for that moments of manifestation and the beautiful joy and ecstasy of life coming in. So the double whammy, humanness, and growth, all under the guise of our connection to the divine, makes just things just flow in a surrendered state so much better. God, I could keep talking, but I don't want these videos to be so long. But I hope that connects on some level, and I apologize for this being a day late. Mwah.